I went to hell when I was 16. It wasn't a metaphor. The air tasted like cold iron, the light felt wrong, and the geometry defied every map I knew. It was a place built of guilt and regret, a prison forged in the fires of my own cruelty. Before that day, I was almost proud of my cruelty, angry more at my practice. My sister, its safest target. I broke her spirit piece by piece, reveling in her pain. I mocked her, broke the things she loved, called her names until she stopped looking like a child and started looking like someone who already expected to be hurt. In the end, I broke her face. That afternoon, my parents were at work. My mother called once, her voice tight with warning, and I hung up. We fought over something stupid. I don't remember the reason. I remember my hands, the ragged sound of her breathing when she fell to the kitchen floor, the hot metallic smell of blood that made my stomach lurch and then harden into apathy. I threw a paper towel at her and left the room. I went to bed as if nothing had happened, as if the violence had been unremarkable. Sleep, when it came, was thin, fractured. 10 minutes or an hour, time had already blurred. Then the bed dissolved under me. I woke on cold bricks, the mortar biting my palms. The dark around me was not absence, but presence. It pressed, it listened. There was no ceiling, only a tunnel, stretching farther than the eye could settle, lit by a sickle of light that didn't belong to any sun. The smell. There was the same as the kitchen's blood, and something older, damp, stone, rot, and the faint metallic tang of guilt. I walked because the tunnel asked me to. For a long time, the only sound was my own breath and the slow scuff of my shoes on brick. I tried to wake up. More! I shouted until my throat was raw. The more I insisted I wasn't trapped, the more the place folded around my stubbornness. It seemed to savor my disbelief. Then there were footsteps that were not mine. I looked up and saw a figure rounding a curve ahead, a human silhouette painted with absence. It was black like a hole punched in the world, a smudge of lacquer with two yellow eyes that burned like old matches. It carried no features I could name, no hands, no mouth, only those patient, watching lights. When it stopped, it was nearer than I expected. It tilted its head and said, in a voice like gravel and old tobacco, "Follow me." I stayed because fear tightens the joints. I moved because it said so, out of a small feral hope that following might be preferable to standing still and watching the dark think around me. It guided me like a shepherd without compassion. Around the next bend, the world snapped into a new room, my sister's bedroom, down to the posters and the plastic trophies on the shelf. The smell of her shampoo, something sweet and very small cut through the tunnel's rot, and made the whole illusion crueler for its familiarity. The figure stood by her door and pointed. I looked through and saw her pivot into the room, as if flung by a wind I could not see, hair flying, face contorted into a smile that meant everything and nothing. She moved like someone who had been taught to look surprised at the moment you break them. She attacked me the way I had taught her to fight, with animal force and the terrible, practiced precision of somebody who had learned how to survive by hitting back. She tore and clawed at me with hands that were mine to shape. Every blow echoed bones I hadn't realized were fragile. She smelled of iron and tears. When she stopped, she wasn't a wreck. She was coherent, sharpened by hurt. She picked up her cheerleading trophy, cold metal, heavy in my hand when I imagined it, and raised it above my head. I closed my eyes and waited for the last strike. Time stretched thin as string. The trophy came down, and the world flattened into impact. Pain lanced through my skull, and the lights tunneled into a single bright point. Then the strike never finished. Something caught me by the hair. The figure had my face in its blankness now, and its throat made a sound like a snake dragging stones. It hissed in my sister's voice, not mocking, but precise. This is your hell. When you die, you will feel this 1,000 times. You will witness every cruel thing you've done, and you will never, ever escape. Flung me as if I were nothing. I hit the bricks with a sound like a small planet breaking. When I rolled and opened my eyes, I was back in my bed, a cheap light ticking over the room. The ceiling was ordinary. For a moment, I believed in the ordinary so hard my brain almost relaxed. Then my hands found my cheeks. The skin was warm. Blood had dried in a salt ring on my lips. I staggered to the bathroom and met my face in the mirror. Both eyes were swollen into purple moons. Cuts trailed from my hairline to my jaw, in the same places I'd imagined her claws. Every breath felt like someone had packed paper under my ribs. I vomited into the sink and watched a red string unwind itself from my throat. The terror now is not of a hammer falling. It's the small, private certainty that somewhere beyond the thin membrane of the bed is a long tunnel that will show me everything I have refused to see. I am afraid to die because I am afraid to be reduced to what I was, a boy who practiced cruelty until it became an accessory. I am afraid to sleep for the same reason. And when I do rest, I always wake with the taste of iron and the memory of a voice that sounded like my sister and like the world, telling me, low and patient, "This is your hell, and it is waiting."